and you're going to be reading from the top right here. We're good? Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular council meeting for May 23rd, 2023. And we just have a special event this evening. We've had a contest for youth in our community where we've selected a mayor for a day. And we're joined this evening. Mayor Jones will be calling our meeting to order and reading our land acknowledgement. So what you can do, it's 7 o'clock. We'll make it really exciting and let you bang the gavel. Bang the gavel and say, I'll call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock.
I call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock.
And you can read the land acknowledgement.
Treaty 6 Land Acknowledgement. Blackfalds Town Council acknowledges that we are on Treaty 6 territory and traditional meeting ground, gathering place, and traveling route to the Cree, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Métis, Dene, and Nakota Sioux. We acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who have marked these lands for centuries.
Okay, thank you so much. We'll see you at the parade. I guess we can keep the bling. We'll keep the bling. Thank you so much. Don't forget your prize. Okay, thank you, everyone. And with that, our next item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Administration, do we have any changes?
No, we don't, Your Worship.
Council, any additions or changes to the? If not, can I get a motion to adopt? Deputy Mayor Swab.
I'll move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Any debate or discussion? And all in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you. We do have a delegation this evening. This evening, we're joined by, Corey, I've never had to pronounce your last name. Corey Twerdoclib. Is that close enough? Okay, thank you. From Mobile Munchies. I'll have to. Yes, we'll practice that. Thank you. If you can just push the button on that microphone there. There you go. Thank you, Corey.
You betcha. All right. Good evening, Council, Administration. Appreciate the opportunity to speak in front of you. My name is Corey Twerdoclib. For the past 10 years, most of you know me. I've operated the concessions at the arena and 3 years now at the Abbey Center. I'm here tonight to correct some information that was brought forward during the April 25th meeting, which I wasn't able to attend, regarding item 7.9, the arena lease space number 1. During my presentation here, I'm going to be using timestamps of the April 25th meeting, so you can look back at that for reference. I figure I only got 15 minutes, so I don't have time to play them all here for you. So, it started at 1:15:30 for the debate on 7.9. At 1:16:06, it was said that they would be trying the girl that's proposing another food service. They would be trying not to compete with the current vendor in the arena, and I'm just not too sure how possible that will be because of we operate during peak operation times when it's the busiest, and as a food service provider, I feel it's kind of something she'd probably want to be doing to take advantage of the peak traffic in there. At 1:17:27, there's a question asked if this would interfere with our contract, and the answer was it does not. But in my opinion, I feel it does interfere, as this would directly affect our bottom line. And the reason I say the bottom line, as the new concession stands in the arena, it's not very functional for capacity crowds. So we've gone ahead and created a satellite station at the other end of the arena. And that costs money to set up and staff. And, we've reinvested our capital into that to make that happen, to alleviate the lineups at the main concession. So, I feel it's having a competition like that is going to affect our ability to continue to do that in the way that I would like to expand the food service in the arena. At 1:17:40, a question was asked if we had been notified or made aware of this proposal, and the answer was that she did have discussions with him. So that's not entirely true. We had one quick conversation with her in passing. We were getting ready for a junior provincial game, and so in passing, she flagged us down and basically told us she was putting in a proposition to put in food service there, healthy options. I think she had said a possible coffee bar. So, in my opinion, that does kind of conflict with what we're already doing there. But because it was the time it was, we were busy, didn't really put too much thought into it. So we continued with getting ready for the junior game. Then at 1:18:16, it was stated, as far as I know, that discussion has been good with them. Now, my question would be, how would the administration know that? We've never had a conversation with anybody from the town regarding this proposal. So I kind of question how they would come to the conclusion we were okay with this without having a conversation with us. 1:18:20, a question from council came in the current contract negotiations, that has it come up from the current contractor as a potential issue? And the answer was that it hasn't. And once again, I'd ask, how is that possible? Because we haven't been approached from the town on our feelings on this proposal. So there's some questions that have come to arisen, I guess, when I watched the video on some of the statements that were made. What else do I got for you? The first time actually a town member had mentioned it to us was during our contract renegotiation on May 11th. And that kind of put an end to the contract negotiations, because I was not aware this was at the state it is. So I said we're kind of done until we figure out how we're going to approach this situation. Because as far as I'm concerned, as a food service, with the margin as slim as they are, putting any kind of third food service in there, because there's two in there already, there's two concessions, you put a third one in there basically during capacity crowds, that'd be the only time it'd be beneficial. If during minor hockey, which there's a lot of, as we know, it'd be really affecting our bottom line at that point, because there's just not the traffic flow as there is with capacity crowd. So I'm basically looking for this to come back to council, now that you've heard our side of it, for a vote again, just in light of the new information that I'm kind of bringing forward. If you have any questions about it, I definitely will be happy to answer anything you have regarding anything I haven't clarified on our feelings about this other food service proposal.
Thank you. Council, any questions for Corey? So thanks, Corey. We, nice, clear communication on this. As you mentioned, this is something that came to council before, and we did get some preliminary discussion on this. And just for anybody watching, just because some of this will entail confidential contract
Absolutely.
information, we won't have comprehensive discussion about this in public. We do have a confidential item later on, so that we can pose questions to administration and get some clarity on this. And when it comes down to those details, those discussions will be held in that confidential section. So
Right.
and
Sorry.
yeah,
I can.
no, go right ahead.
A couple other points I'd like to bring to council. I've approached managers regarding skate sharpening there as well, because I know in October we had the first 2 weekends we were open, we had people from out of town approaching us saying, is there any skate sharpening in the facility? Is there any skate sharpening? It went on for 2 weekends straight. It was bombardment. So I decided I would approached the town about putting in skate sharpening because I'm there all the time anyhow. And I was told that somebody else was already lined up to do that. And after a few weeks of passing, nothing was happening. I asked again and was told that it's still in discussions. And this went on for a little while. And then finally, the last answer I got was they had been given a deadline to commit to putting in skate sharpening. But as of today, we still have no skate sharpening in the arena, even though I had proposed doing that. And I would have had it in. I actually had a skate sharpener lined up, would have had it in by the end of 2022. So that's another issue that I was kind of made to understand that the lease space 1 was to be used for sports goods, skates, laces, skate sharpening potential. So had I known that there would be opportunity for food services there, I'd talked to some of the managers I've been dealing with about expanding the food services with yet more satellite space, because the concession as it stands just can't do a capacity crowd. So I've been in discussions and brought some ideas forward about expanding even more so what we've already done. And being told that it wouldn't be in the budget for this year, but potentially next year. And I had said, that's fine, just as long as it's on the radar, that regardless of who's running the food services, it's something that'll need to happen if there's going to be large events in that facility. So had I known that that was an option, I could have, because we've been looking for more food service space, especially during peak capacity crowds, I guess. So had I known that that was an option, that would have been definitely something that I would have been open to looking at as well. I don't know if that's a good use for the space. I kind of liken it to, had I approached council or the town about putting in a massage or wellness spot in that space directly across from the one that's already there. We've got 2 concessions providing food service in that building, and to put a third one in the middle, it doesn't seem like a pertinent use of space. So yeah, there's just a lot of questions that could have been answered that came from the April 25th meeting that I wasn't made aware of. There were potential solutions to the food service issue there for capacity crowds. So I guess I can leave it at that. If the only other thing I'll say is, if there's too much competition in that facility, now competition isn't a bad thing if you have the population to sustain that. But in that facility, it's not like a Rogers Place or a Centrium where you've got a lot more people. But if the numbers aren't there for a business coming in there, then the business is going to leave or go broke. And we've kind of gone through, the town has gone through it with the Abbey Center. Now we've been there for, this will be the 3rd year, and there's been 4 contractors in there, including the town. We're the 4th one. And none of them have been able to do that. And there's a reason that we're in our 3rd year. It's because we made changes to make it a financially feasible option for our business. If things change at the EBC and the numbers start to change, we won't be able to reinvest in the business, which means reinvesting into the facility with the satellite stations, because the numbers just won't be there to support that. So, I just don't think it's a good use of that space, and it's probably going to create problems down the road. If the numbers do decline, then the business will no longer be feasible, and we'll end up having to go elsewhere or shut the doors. And then we'll be into the same cycle as the Abbey Center had been, right? So just throwing that as a little bit of advice from stuff that I've seen. I've been doing this for 15 years, so I kind of have an idea on the food services end of things. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, I see Councillor Stanley with a question.
So I'll give a little bit of an explanation first, just so you understand my question a little bit better.
Yep.
When this initially came to the rec board, it was proposed that what she was looking at was non-peak hours around your business and offering things that you currently don't. So breakfast food items, smoothies, lunch items, soups and salads and wraps and those kinds of things. And her target audience wasn't supposed to be, from my understanding, based on what we were told at the rec board, the games. It was supposed to be her clients, people who are attending the library programs, anybody who's there for early morning practices who want a coffee because they're watching their kids' games, those kinds of things. So my question to you would be, if she was not to be allowed to open in that capacity, are you prepared to provide those types of services to the community?
Well, we already do provide a lot of those things you've said, aside from smoothies. We do wraps, we do salads. This year was different because of the inflationary price of goods for the salads and stuff like that. We actually pulled a lot of that stuff off the menu because we just have to charge way too much for what I think anybody would want to pay for it because of the prices of the items. So typically in the past, we've offered salads, soups regularly, homemade soups, wraps. The only thing really is smoothies. We do breakfast sandwiches all the time. So we already do those items, or a majority of them. As far as providing that service, that's definitely something we could look into. The demand would have to be there. I know we've done mornings before, and there wasn't a lot that people that were there that, you'd have. Usually the early morning practices are the older kids. So they either drive themselves or one parent drives a few of them. So maybe they'll get a coffee or maybe a breakfast sandwich, but there's not enough volume to pay somebody to be there for a minimum of 3 hours. And there's usually only one practice in the morning, 6:30 till 7. Maybe they'll fit in 2 depending on the schedule, right? But the volume would have to be there. I'm not opposed to doing anything with the library. I've never been approached to do that. So, it's definitely something we would be willing to look at.
So subsequent, if I may, is that something that you could see your business doing in the capacity that she was offering? That space has been empty for the entirety of that building being there, and she's providing fair rental rate. Should she open that business? Is that a space that you were looking at renting?
My question would be, what is her food service experience? How long has she been doing it? Because I know from my experience, 15 years, that it's
it typically isn't something
the volume
that
has to be there.
It typically isn't something that as council we ask of business owners when they're opening a business how much experience they have, because they're entrepreneurs. So that's a risk they're taking on, as you understand.
Absolutely,
full well.
yeah. Well, and on that note, being a risk that they're taking on, we had declined the Abbey Center originally because what they were asking for hours, I did not see being feasible, and as it turns out, it wasn't. So taking over that space, like I said, it all depend on what we're looking for there. As far as the library, I'm not too sure what the library is looking for. It would have to be able to pay for itself. Even not taking over that space, we already have 2 concessions in there that can do more than that because of the equipment that's in there. So
apologies, one more subsequent. So I have heard from quite a few parents of young kids in the community, their disappointment when they come for a tournament on a weekend or they come for a practice. And we have had a few issues, I think, with our vending machines on the other side of the arena. And food services was not open. So I see your side. I also see hers. And I think I'm struggling just a little bit to rectify where the medium where the median is.
Right.
I'm not sure. It'll be interesting to see what the other councillors have to say when we go into discussions, because I really see both sides, and I'm not seeing a clear cut way through this that will make everyone happy.
Right. On the vending machine side of things, I use the same guy for repairs that the town uses, and I'm sure they can attest to it. He's a very busy guy. I'm waiting for him to come, and still waiting. He was supposed to be at the Abbey Center this morning to fix the ice machine, and wasn't there. I phoned him, and he was in the hospital with his little one. So life happens, and you just got to roll with it. So that's kind of where that, I understand the one's not operational, but I'm waiting on repair guys. Initially it was parts, as that was an issue for a lot of things. Now it's waiting on the guy to install them and test the machine, and we're still waiting. So that's really all I can do with that is when he's available. And of course, everybody's got their private lives that happen. So that's kind of where that is at.
Councillor Pell.
Wonderful. Thank you for your presentation, Corey. My question is actually through the chair to administration, just regarding what Corey said about skate sharpening, as we as council had also been told that there was someone there that was going to do it. So to date, is there public skate sharpening availability at the arena?
As of right now, there is not. Oh, sorry. As of right now, there is not skate sharpening at the arena. We are waiting on a response. We're hoping to have it for the fall of 2023. If not, then we will put it back out there for sure.
Okay, so just a subsequent then, how long are we waiting, and what are we going to do to ensure that it's open when the ice is back in for the fall season?
Yeah, we said the end of June. We need to have an answer.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Well, Corey, I do have a little insight in terms of I see one more. Councillor Stenday. Yeah.
Sorry. Based off of what Councillor Appel has said, through the chair to administration, would it be possible when we have an answer in June for administration to reach out and let Corey know whether or not that other company individual has decided to go through with that, or whether that's an opportunity he might be able to take on?
Yes, we can.
And as I was saying, Corey, I kind of have a little insight into food service. It's tricky business. I can attest to that. I can't say that I have any experience in terms of running multiple sites during
Gray hair.
peak and off season, etc. That said, we say this to people in our community all the time when we get complaints about too many pizza places, too many liquor stores. We don't have, we don't have the right to control someone's desire to open a business, even if they believe that the market might be saturated. It is a free market to an extent. These are facilities. We do know that there are challenges, and we've seen them ourselves over time. So you've given us some more insight for us to consider in our conversation, and we will have those conversations a little bit later. So I think it was valuable what you added there.
Thank you. I have one more point actually you bring up. In the facility up to May 11th, it's been verbally stated and as far as I'm concerned, understood that we had the exclusive food services in the facility. Now, to the point where it was actually enforced just this year, from my understanding, there was a meeting that took place, and then it stopped. I'm not going to get any more into it, but my thoughts on that, even if we're not running it, if you get rid of an exclusive contract in there, you open up a can for anybody to come in and decide they're going to sell whatever they decide they want to sell for their event, which pushes out the concession altogether. There again, affecting the bottom line. So now at this point, if there's multiple food services in there by different organizations, you can't, and somebody rents the facility and says, hey, we're going to be selling this food and selling that food. You can't put a lid on that. Once it's opened, it's open. And we've gone through that at the Abbey Center, where we had last year implemented the no outside food because there was a ton of problems on the pool deck. And it was causing issues for us and for, in my opinion, the Abbey Center, as far as coolers on the deck and glass bottles, because you don't control what they're bringing in the coolers, right? Aside from maybe no liquor. But if you do this at the EBC again, you're gonna have that same problem all over again. And we've now fixed the problem at the Abbey, and now to me it looks like it's gonna happen at the EBC, where it may seem like a good idea at the time, but once you open that can, it's gonna be tough to put a lid on it. Problems will be created by doing that. There's no doubt about it. It'll just take some time to see them, but I've seen them. So
Thank you, Kurt. You make some fair points, and this is good fuel for discussion. These are unique. These aren't just arbitrary business licenses we're giving out.
absolutely.
So yeah, and we're once we delve into the details of this will be done in confidence. So thank you for your time today, and I'm sure that if we have questions, we'll have someone follow up with you on those.
Okay, so will I be notified of any further discussions going on about this, or how? I'm not familiar with the process.
And again, I can't answer that until we delve into this with our administration, but no doubt that there'll be some follow-up over this. Since you are the vendor in that facility, there will be some communication over what the next steps will be. And at this point, we don't know that. So
Okay.
thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay. That brings us this evening to the next point, which is in our agenda, which is public hearing. We do have public hearing for Bylaw 12723, the land use bylaw housekeeping amendment. So with that, we move into public hearing. The following public hearing is held pursuant to the Municipal Government Act. The following rules of conduct will be followed during the public hearing. Presentation should be brief and to the point. The order of presentation shall be entry of the written submission, comments from the Planning and Development section of the Infrastructure and Property Services Division, those supporting the bylaw, those opposing the bylaw, any other person deemed to be affected by the bylaw. The public hearing purpose is to receive comments from any interested parties on the proposed bylaw. I hereby declare the public hearing related to Bylaw 1275.23 open.
The purpose of the bylaw 1275.23 is to amend the land use bylaw 1268.22 to reflect some changes in provincial legislation pertaining to subdivision and development, clarification of sign variances, clarification of driveway lengths, when the driveway accesses through a lane, changing barrier-free parking requirements in accordance with the Alberta Building Code, removing sections specific to compliance certificates, adding the addition of retail liquor as the use in commercial central district C1, commercial highway district C2, commercial local district C3, and commercial mixed use district CMU, deleting farmers market as discretionary use in the public facility district PF, and removal of site expectation that is no longer required in the commercial central district C1. First reading was given to Bylaw 1275.23 at the April 25th, 2023 regular council meeting. Notice of this public hearing was advertised in the May 11th and 18th edition of the Lacombe Express, in the May 2023 edition of Talk of the Town, on bulletin boards, at the Town Civic Centre upstairs outside of council chambers, emailed to local authorities and agencies and the MPC members. A hard copy of the proposed bylaw 1275.23 was available for viewing at the Town Civic Centre front counter upstairs. The public hearing notice and the copy of proposed bylaw 1275.23 was posted on the Planning Development webpage of the town's website. The notice was also sent out to the town's social media channels. The following written comments have been received to date. May 2nd, 2023, submissions from Lacombe County. May 4th, 2023, submissions from TELUS Communications. May 10th, 2023, submissions from Alberta Transportation and Economic Corridors. And May 16th, 2023, submission from ATCO.
Thank you. Are there any late submissions related to the bylaw?
No, Your Worship.
All right, I'll receive comments from Planning and Development section.
Good evening, Mayor Hoover, members of council, and public hearing attendees. Land use bylaws provide the blueprints for all developments that occur within the town's municipal limits. So it's very important that we keep it up to date. It provides clear development requirements and reflects the planning and development needs of our community. The new land use bylaw was adopted a year ago, and now that staff have had a chance to work with it, they've identified some housekeeping amendments. In addition, there have been some changes to provincial legislation pertaining to subdivision development regulations, all of which have necessitated some housekeeping amendments to the land use bylaw, which are presented at tonight's public hearing for amending bylaw 1275.23. I'll now run through the amendments for council and the public hearing attendees. Amendment numbers 2.1, 2.4, 2.7, and 2.10 to 2.17 all pertain to the recent changes to provincial regulations regarding subdivision development. Many of the changes are to reflect the new name of the regulations, being matters related to subdivision development regulation, and to reflect that these regulations no longer restrict food establishment from the working areas or disposal areas of landfills, waste management facilities, or of operating storage site. The proposed amendments also update that variances to landfills, waste management facilities, or operating storage sites can now be signed off by a professional engineer who prepares a report in accordance with the guide for setback reviews, as opposed to requiring written consent from the deputy minister. Amendment numbers 2.2, 2.23, and 2.25 to 2.27 reintroduce retail liquor as a use with a definition and add the use into the same land use districts it was in with the previous land use bylaw. Amendment number 2.3 will enable the development officers to make decisions on sign applications while still allowing them to refer a sign application to the Municipal Planning Commission. Amendment numbers 2.5 and 2.6 are proposed to make it clear when a development permit application is considered complete and received. These amendments have been encouraged by other municipalities, as these matters have been a subject of appeals when an application is submitted electronically. Amendment number 2.8 is to clarify that there is a specific section pertaining to sign variances that have a difference of variance thresholds for development authorities. Sorry, mouthful there. Amendment 2.9 proposes to remove the section on compliance certificates because we have a newly adopted certificate of compliance policy and procedures. Amendment number 2.18 brings back an important element of driveway length, requiring that driveways are either 6 meters in length or 1 meter in length, and this is to prevent overhang of vehicles. Amendment numbers 2.19 and 2.20 propose to remove barrier-free parking regulations and refer the requirements to whatever the Alberta Building Code requires. Amendment number 2.21 alters the wording in the section pertaining to sign permits, stating that a development officer shall, meaning they must, issue a permit, to that a development officer may issue in a decision. Amendment number 2.22 proposes to update the wording to reflect the newly adopted election sign bylaw. Amendment 2.24 removes a site exception in the central commercial district that would specifically allow Grandin Auto to remain. However, the property was redistricted to light industrial during the land use bylaw review. Therefore, the site exception is no longer needed. And lastly, Amendment 2.28 proposes to remove farmers market from the list of discretionary uses, as it's already listed as a permitted use. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone who supports the bylaw and wishes to speak? Is there anyone who opposes the bylaw and wishes to speak? Is there anyone deemed to be affected by the bylaw and wishes to speak? Are there any further comments from the Planning and Development section? Councillors have any further questions? Nothing further, then I hereby declare this public hearing related to bylaw 1275.23 be closed, and we'll accept a motion to adjourn this public hearing. Councillor Pell.
Thank you. I move to adjourn the public hearing.
All in favor? Public hearing is adjourned. Brings us to business arising from the minutes, which brings us back to the request for decision for bylaw 1275.23, the land use bylaw housekeeping amendments, second and third reading.
I won't go back through the report. The administrative recommendation is that upon closing the public hearing for bylaw 1275.23, council gives second reading to bylaw 1275.23 land use bylaw housekeeping amendments. And there's a second recommendation here that council, upon giving second reading to bylaw 1275.23, gives third and final reading to bylaw 1275.23 land use bylaw housekeeping amendments.
Thank you. Council, any questions or comments before we entertain the motion? Seeing none, can we get a Deputy Mayor Swab?
I'll move that council, upon closing the public hearing for bylaw 1275.23, give second reading to bylaw 1275.23, the land use bylaw housekeeping amendments.
Thank you. Debate or discussion on the motion? All in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you. We do have a second motion. Councillor Sands.
I'll move that council, upon giving second reading to bylaw 1275.23, give third and final reading to bylaw 1275.23, land use bylaw housekeeping amendments.
Thank you. Debate or discussion? All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. That brings us to business items. Item 7.1, request for decision for the proposed subdivision S-01-23. Planning and Development Night.
Thank you, Mayor Hoover. The landowners of Units 1 and 2 Condominium Plan 9720562, these are located at 4635 and 4639 Womax Road respectively, are wanting to dissolve their condominium plan and create two separate fee simple lots. The subject properties are accessed off Womax Road and is developed with a duplex unit. The proposed new lot line would run down the common wall of the duplex and split the parcel in half, as shown in attachment 2 of your report. Section 654 of the Municipal Government Act, Section 9 of the Matters Related to Subdivision Development Regulation, and Policy 3.12 of the Town's Municipal Development Plan outline considerations the subdivision authority must consider when processing an application. Administration is satisfied that the considerations are adequately met. The proposed subdivision does not require any reserve dedication, and the application was referred to adjacent landowners identified in attachment 4 of your report, and all required local authorities and agencies. No objections to the subdivision have been received to date. Administration's recommendation is that council, being the subdivision authority for the town of Blackfalds, is satisfied that the proposed subdivision meets the relevant considerations, move to approve the subdivision of Unit 1 and Unit 2 Condominium Plan 9720562, subject to the following conditions. One, that pursuant to Section 84 of the Land Titles Act, the subdivision as shown on the attached sketch is registered by Plan of Survey. Second condition, that pursuant to Section 654(1)(d) of the Municipal Government Act, all outstanding property taxes are to be paid or other arrangements made satisfactory for the payment thereof to the town of Blackfalds. Condition number 3, satisfactory arrangements be made with the town of Blackfalds for the provision of separate water and wastewater service to individually service proposed lots 1 and 2. 4, that any subdivision takes in consideration the conditions set by utility companies. Condition number 5, that proposed lots 1 and 2 maintain separate accesses via Womax Road. And 6, that the developer enters into a party wall agreement and ensuring that's registered under the respective certificates of titles upon registration of the subdivision. Thank you.
Thank you. Question or comments from council? Am I correct in saying that this, the property directly west of these two properties, or they went through this about 3-4 years ago?
You are correct.
So this is exactly the same process that we went through at that time.
That's correct.
precedent set already. Okay, thank you. Okay, seeing no comments or questions, we do have a fairly lengthy motion to consider. Councillor Stende.
Since you did such a beautiful job reading it, I will move the administrative recommendation.
Thank you. Debate or discussion? All in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you. That brings us to 7.2, the Urban Hens survey results and program pilot.
Thank you, Worship Council. So Urban Hens in the town of Blackfalds was introduced again by a member of the public in 2019. We completed a community survey to gauge the community's desire to introduce the Urban Hens at that time. The 2019 survey was almost a 50-50 split. Council accepted the Urban Hen review and public survey as information and then didn't move forward any further. The January 16th, 2023 Standing Committee of Council, a delegation reintroduced the concept of Urban Hens. And at that time, the delegation encouraged Council to revisit an Urban Hen program in the town of Blackfalds. Councillor Sende moved that Council direct us to establish or assemble an Urban Hen survey together with educational information for residents of Blackfalds to complete, and we've now got those survey results. Further to that, we completed the actual open house, which included the public engagement survey as well. We basically had that public engagement survey in the April edition of Talk of the Town, advertised on the town websites, town social media channels, and then again at the open house on April 12th at the Eagle Builder Center. The survey results indicated that a total of 13 responses were collected. Out of that, 756 Blackfalds residents were in favor of seeing urban hens being allowed within Blackfalds residential areas, while 457 Blackfalds residents were not in favor. There's some additional information there as well in regards to the survey. However, I'll just kind of highlight on our path moving forward. So with the review of the residents responded in favor, we've developed a template for a 2-year pilot program. So we're recommending preparation to begin the development of the program for future rollout with revisions to the animal control bylaw to have the following rules and regulations. An urban hen license will cost $50 annually. The maximum number of urban hen licenses issued by the town under this 2-year pilot would be 25. A coop or structure would have to be kept, capped at a size of 100 square feet. A premises identification number, a provincial requirement to ensure the flock is registered on a provincial database, would be required. Applicants must notify neighboring properties and receive neighborhood approval of 75%. A minimum property size of 5,000 square feet would be required to apply. If renting, tenants would have to have the landowner's written permission. Any complaints received would be the urban hen license holder responsibility to communicate with the complaining party to rectify. And further, the town would revoke the urban hen license if there was any valid complaints in the opinion of the bylaw officer regarding the smell, the well-beings of the hens, predators being more prevalent due to the hens in the area, any slaughtering of hens or the sale of eggs. So with that, there's minimum financial implications. Basically would just be the time that administration would take to process and enforce the new urban hen licenses. So what we're recommending tonight is that council move to accept the urban hen survey result reports as information as attached, and that council direct administration to revise the animal control bylaw with urban hen rules and regulations as I just went through in preparation for a 2-year urban hen pilot program, and then bring that back to council for revisions to the bylaw and starting that program. With that, I'll open up to any questions.
Let's see, I'm not sure who's first, whoever turns red first. Deputy Municipal.
So I do have two questions. One is on number 5. So 150 meters of the proposed hen location, is that, having discussions with people in the community, is that about 75 properties or more that they would have to contact?
150 meters of the proposed hen location. Yeah, I believe that would be about that.
Okay, and then number 6, minimum property size of 5,000 square feet. Now, townhouses would be excluded from this, the mobile home parks, and I don't really know, do we have a lot of properties in our community that are 5,000 square feet and larger?
I'm not 100% certain, but I believe any medium lots or large lots fall into that category.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Stenny.
So based on how stringent the guidelines in order to have them are, even just to be approved, because you have to have 75% of your neighbors on board, is there a reason why we're limiting it to 25?
There's no reason, Councillor Sandy, we could open it up to more people. We just wanted to put some sort of similar cap in that other municipalities have done.
Okay, so subsequent, do we know of any municipalities who have had issues with a cap? Because as far as I'm aware, the only one who has was Lacombe, and that was because they had so many people interested that they removed the cap.
Yeah, I haven't really done too much research on that item, but I know that the City of Red Deer just recently removed their cap.
Councillor Powell.
Thank you. I have a few questions through the chair to Director Warren. My first one is regarding the minimum property size of 5,000 square feet. If we have coop size requirements and setback, like property line setback requirements in our bylaw that comes forward, I don't know that we necessarily need a property size, because provided that setbacks are followed, I don't know that the property size is necessary. As well, for regarding the licensing. So in these 9 items that you've listed here, nowhere does it actually discuss number of hens or the fact that we won't be allowing roosters. So just a note, I'd like to see that come forward when the bylaw comes forward next, if it gets approved this evening. As well, I'd like to visit the license fee. Both Sylvan Lake and Innisfail charge more than $50. And if we're looking, so if we look at dog and cat licenses, because those are animals that we currently license in town, depending on when they purchase a license and depending on the altered or unaltered state of the animal, they can cost anywhere between $15 to $60. So the most cost-effective way to get an unaltered pet license in Blackfalds is $30 each. So could potentially be, if these were cats per se, it would be $120 in licensing. Not that you can have 4 cats in Blackfalds, but just as an example, just to be very clear. So I'd be interested in seeing it from 50, closer to that $65, $75 mark, where Innisfail and Sylvan Lake are closer to. And then my last comment, or actually, sorry, 2 more comments. Just in reading the comments from residents, I agree that the animal welfare has to be a priority. So in raising the licensing fee to help cover our enforcement and administration, I feel like that, provided we can ensure that the enforcement is happening, I'd like that to happen just due to the welfare of the animals. And my last question is just regarding the survey itself. When we're looking at the numbers, and after I went through it, I sort of realized what happened, but I kept my initial note because when we talk about 1,213 responses, and then we had 756 in favor, well, everyone who said they were in favor of that, we have substantially more than 756 results from that. So my only question is, next time we do a survey, can we ensure that it's actually only people that selected yes to that first question will be asked the second question, so that then our numbers make sense, because clearly we have a number, approximately 175 people who answered no to the first question, but then continued to answer the second question. So it really skews the numbers. Now, sorry, it doesn't skew the numbers. It affects the numbers, because clearly 756 versus 457 is more largely in favor. But just when you're first reading out the words, it's like, hey, wait a minute, that doesn't add up. So that was just my general note. Thank you.
And just before Councillor Cindy, I did notice that too, but I kind of read into that as some people that objected were maybe a little bit more amicable if there was, I don't know, that's how I read it, but numbers didn't add up for me either. But it told me that there were people that were maybe more open-minded than they might have answered in the first. Councillor Cindy.
So if part 2 of the administrative recommendation this evening passes, how soon can we expect residents to see this come back for council discussion? Would it be at the next standing committee meeting?
Councillor, I believe we bring it forward for a bylaw amendment in open council.
Perfect.
I don't think it's been talked about a lot here unless council so wishes to bring it to a standing committee. I don't see the need to do that though.
Okay, wonderful.
I share the same comments about the property size. I think that by having a setback, if somebody can meet the setback, I think that would satisfy it. So I think when we look at the bylaw, I would be open to reducing or even eliminating the property size, as long as the property can meet the setback requirements. And then the one thing that I had a question about, I know that when we make amendments or we go out to notify adjacent property owners, I'm sure that there's a timeline for those people to come back, but we're not specifically looking for a percentage of responses in the affirmative before we move forward. So I'm wondering, how do we save the pain for these people that are applying to try and track down and get some kind of results that reflect a 75% number, where there may be people that they can't get a hold of, that refuse to get back to them. So I'm hoping we can put a little bit of thought into how we can do that, so that it's not a nightmare for these people. I know that I've got neighbors that I could probably go to their door 10 times and they wouldn't answer it. They got these little cameras on their doorbells and they just don't answer it for people. So I'm wondering how they could possibly do it. I could see it being challenging for some people. So I think when the bylaw comes, I'll be asking those same questions and how we can ease that process forward.
Yeah, your worship, for sure. We're perfectly okay with removing the 5,000 square foot minimum property size. I guess as far as the setback, there would be no setback in these cases because there's no development permit needed for the hen or the coop, sorry. So basically either way, we'd still be okay with removing that land size when the bylaw comes forward. As far as getting the applications for the notifying of neighbors, we definitely need to have some further discussion about that, because yeah, you're right, it is kind of usually in our world, it's if you don't hear anything, you're okay, it's okay. So we might be looking at some sort of a method that way, because it is difficult to get a hold of a lot of your neighbors. And then we'll actually look at the 150 meters from the proposed hen location as well to make that so that it's easy for residents to get the approval.
At least a time limit for how long people have to respond. Councillor Bell.
Thank you. Through the chair to Director Warren. So if a development permit isn't required, should we therefore have wording in there that states that the coop needs to be a standalone structure to avoid anyone? I know in the comments, there was a lot of comments about things being built up against fences that adjoin property lines. So would we, without setbacks, would we put that in the bylaw somewhere that it needs to be a standalone structure?
We could do that. We could also look at defining the setback in the definition of a coop.
Okay.
In the bylaw. We'll definitely look at that.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'd be
because,
interested
yeah,
in seeing some regulations about that. Or some
essentially,
outlines
you
for
could
people.
take your coop and set up right against the neighboring fence line. So that's maybe one of the major things when the bylaw comes into place that they're asking them to relocate that. I don't really see a big consideration in having the coop beside it or say a meter away from it. It's not like it's going to affect your neighbor, at least in my mind.
Yeah, it did come forward as a concern in several of the comments, so I'd like certainly a way for us to address that. And one other comment that I had on this regarding the 2-year pilot. The reason I'm in favor of a 2-year pilot and not moving forward with this indefinitely is a 2-year pilot gives this current term of council a chance to see how this pilot works and how it goes, and will allow us to make a determination on it before the next election. And the best part of that is we're not kicking the pail down the road to someone else to deal with it if it's potentially an issue at the end of 2 years. I'm not saying it will be, but in case it is, because there were also a lot of comments about why bother with a 2-year pilot program, and that's my feeling as to why we would do that, so we can go forward with anything within this term. So, thanks.
Thank you.
So with this, would this amendment of a bylaw require a public hearing?
No.
Okay. Now, related but not but separate issue on the animal control bylaw was my intention to have a closer look at the animal control bylaw for other reasons. So is this something that would just be a supplementary section of that? Should we be revisiting those other issues that I feel that we should be revisiting and do that at one time? What would be the preferred process for planning and development in that?
The individual amendments to adding the urban hens would probably be best come forward as a separate item. And then if you could provide us your comments related to the animal control bylaw, after that's gone through, we can bring it back and amend those. If they're minor amendments, we can probably include them.
What is the criteria for public hearing? How much change would need to be done before we would require public hearing on it?
There's 3 or 4 different sections of the MGA that require public hearing. Most of them are regarding planning and development, land use type things. There is some other minor amendments that you need or that you have to have public hearing for, but the animal control bylaw is not one of those.
Okay,
That
so-
being said, council can always make a public hearing for
Okay.
a bylaw.
No, I just know that the public hearing adds a significant amount of time in that process. So if we were to be moving forward, that would be a consideration. Okay, thank you. Any other? Oh, I see. Let me see who's first. Councilor Coulter.
Sorry, through the chair to administration, just I want some clarification because we have the size of the coop being capped at 100 square feet. Are we putting in there or in the animal control bylaw in regards to how many hens per square foot?
What we would do is we'd probably put a number of hens per applicant. So you would say that no applicant can have more than 5 or 7 hens per residential dwelling. So you would do it that way. And then the reason we don't have the coop size under 100 square feet is because then we've got to get into a development and building permit scenario, mostly a development permit scenario. So that's where it would all be under the animal control bylaw, and those the number of hens would be part of the licensing requirement.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Schwab.
So talking about what you were just talking about, the animal control bylaw, if you go to City of Red Deer or City of Lacombe's page, they have their own hen bylaw, which I think we should have. I don't think it should be part of the animal control. I think it needs to be its own entity because it's a bit different than with dogs and cats. So that's my opinion on that. And then another thing I noticed on both their websites too is they could apply online to do their hen, however it would work out, their application to apply for becoming a provider of chickens, I guess. So is that something that we would have? Because I noticed they only had a 1-page thing that they would fill out. So there was no other information I could find that would show that there was a setback of the 5,000 square feet or how many properties you had to approach. So I think it needs to be well thought out before it actually comes out so that everybody understands exactly what they need to do.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Pell.
Thank you. Through the chair, just one final question. If an applicant decided they wanted to have a coop at over 100 square feet, would they be allowed to do so, but just go through the development permit process?
Good question. I would think that we would allow it, but there might be a modification to that coop. But we'll bring that back to council to talk about it because we want to get planning and development involved in that.
Okay.
But I believe a lot of the municipalities have capped it at that amount just so that it doesn't turn into a difficult situation.
So then one final question through the chair. When this comes back to council, would it be possible to see a rubric or like a spreadsheet showing which municipalities, we know there's 5 or 7 around right near us that have these, and say, yes, whether or not they have a cap on property size or a minimum square footage of property size, or yes, they have a cap on the coop size, and this is the number of hens that are allowed. Would it be able to see the information in that way so it's very quick? And I'm sorry, because I was like the Deputy Mayor Swab. I was going around through all sorts of different websites on the weekend and seeing what Sylvan Lake had and seeing what Lacombe had and doing that. But since I know your team will be doing that work anyway, it might be nice to have it presented to us as sort of a one sheet, and then it's really easy for everyone to look at and make sure that our community is being comparable.
Yeah, Councillor Pell, through the chair, we can definitely do that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, good discussion, good questions. All that assuming that the next couple of motions pass. So if there's no other questions, we do have 2 administrative recommendations to consider. Councillor Stende.
So first, I want to say thank you for the survey and the yes/no question. I had a lot of residents come up to me, especially at the open house, saying that they were thrilled that we had done it that way rather than the previous one, which seemed kind of confusing and a little convoluted to some residents. So thank you for that. That said, I move that council move to accept the urban hen survey results report as information.
Thank you. Debate or discussion? All in favor? That one is unanimous. Thank you. We do have a second recommendation. Councillor Sands.
I'll move that council directs administration to revise the animal control bylaw with urban hen rules and regulations in preparation for the 2-year urban hen pilot program and bring it back to council for authorization.
Thank you. Debate or discussion, comments? Yeah. Deputy
I would be in favor of this, but not with an animal control bylaw. I would like to see it its own entity with the hen bylaw.
So my suggestion is amending motion. Since we do have a motion on the table, would you like to move that as a amended motion, removing the animal control bylaw, just prepare bylaw, perhaps?
We could see how
Deputy Mayor Schwab?
we could see how this vote goes, and then if we need a different vote.
Yeah, okay, so we'll rescind your motion and you put it forward, striking animal control bylaw and replacing with just bylaw, I suppose. So I would just pose that, is that a much bigger endeavor for administration to prepare a separate bylaw, or is it effectively the same amount of work?
It's effectively the same amount of work.
Thank you.
And we would modify the animal control bylaw so that the urban hens or the chickens wouldn't be
That
in
aspect
there.
is removed. Okay.
And then we do a separate urban hen bylaw.
Okay, so the motion on the table is slightly different. Rather than animal control, it would be urban hen bylaw. Debate or discussion on the motion? All in favor? That is unanimous. All right. We'll have a pilot program. 7.3, request for decision CP train whistle cessation update and survey results.
Thank you, Worship Council. So at the February 28th regular meeting of council, there was another delegation outlining concerns for numerous train whistles that happened on a number of occasions during the day and nighttime hours as trains travel through our community. The key concern was disruption of sleep as the train whistles as they travel through the community. It was also indicated that the train whistles are a deterrent for people to take up residency in Blackfalds. There's a number of communities that are currently going through or have gone through whistle cessation and implored council to take the similar action. So we have Canadian Pacific Rail Line going through our community. We have brought this item back to council on March 14th, where council directed us to host an open house to gather public feedback. We have attached the survey results to this package and have moved forward looking for direction from council. So the survey was definitely almost 50-50 again, a little bit for, and really there's two sides to this. Basically, there's the safety aspect, and then there's also the quiet enjoyment aspect. So if we were to move forward with whistle cessation, as you all know, we'd have to undertake a whistle cessation safety assessment. So the rail crossings would be inspected and looking for trespassing. We have talked about fencing through the community. We did meet with CP Rail's whistle cessation person here, and he indicated that we wouldn't have to fence both sides of the CP Rail right-of-way. We'd only have to fence one entire length, so that, or even portions of it, so that we minimize or avoid that trespassing altogether. So the other portion of this review, once we did do the cessation engineering study, is we would have to give public notification, and then we'd also have to bring in a new bylaw to stop the whistles blowing through town. That would also require us to put the fencing in that we estimated about $42,500 at a maximum, and upgrade a pedestrian crossing at South Street. It wouldn't have to be a full separate pedestrian crossing. It could actually just be a widening of the northern shoulder, and then putting some sort of a barrier, even a line and some paint to allow those pedestrians to cross there over the existing crossing arms there. So along with that, the other component of this would be that we would have to enter into an agreement with CP Rail and the town to share the liability of any concerns that are under that whistle cessation order. So effectively, this results in about a $500 increase to our insurance premiums a year. So overall, we estimate the cost moving forward to achieve whistle cessation would be in the range of about $92,000 to about $117,000 without any grant funding. Funding was not anticipated in the current budget year. Administration can move forward with preparing a request for proposal for the rail safety assessment. Then we'll know for sure what the upgrades will need to be, and we can get estimates from CP Rail and others to complete that work. There's no financial implications to releasing the rail safety assessment request for proposal other than internal staff time. So what we're asking tonight is that council directs administration to prepare a request for proposal for the rail safety assessment, and then we can bring that award assessment back to council for further discussions. And with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Councilor Dennis.
Just on that $500 extra for additional insurance. And then down below, it's $499 and some change. That's for each crossing. So it'd be 3 times that, I believe.
Yeah, so to answer your question, that's per crossing. There may be some sort of because the crossings are so close together, there may be a group rate that might be less than that.
Councilor Pell.
Thank you. Through the chair to Director Warren. So while I was so thrilled at the responses to the urban hen survey and the number that we got, I will say I was wholly disappointed on the number of responses that we received on this survey. I will just ask, as the in favor comments, both the first one and the third one are exactly the same, including the spelling error that's in there. I'm just not sure if this was a copy paste error when we were taking the information from how it came in on the survey into preparing it into this document, or do we know if the surveys were limited to like one per IP address? They weren't. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
So I know you say that there's no cost to going out for RFP, but I do think that it sets up an expectation that that will be seriously, and we've seen this before. A reason why we did this public consultation is as soon as something appears in an agenda, there's a lot of people that think this is something the town is moving forward with, and even more so, I think, when you go out for RFP. I'm not claiming that I'm against the whistle cessation. I appreciate that we've got some information. From my perspective, I think there's some unanswered questions here before I would even consider supporting it. Firstly, we've done a lot of work on our central part of town, which impacts our rail crossings. I'm not comfortable with making decisions to make further changes until we kind of understand what dynamics have changed with these current or unfinished. Some of these things are unfinished. So that said, I mean, I do have a concern with going out to RFP, setting up expectations with people, getting a controversy stirred up if we're not necessarily going forward. But I mean, that's my opinion. I would almost rather defer this for a year or something and look at it again. That said, we do have consideration of a motion. Councillor Stenday.
Question, does administration have urgency behind this RFP going out, or would it be possible to maybe bring this back for council deliberations during budget discussions next year?
Yeah, no, there's no urgency. The one thing they did note is it should be done at a time when, like, it shouldn't be done in the middle of winter. It should be done at a time when pedestrians are walking and trespassing is occurring. We did meet with administration, or sorry, with CP Rail. Administration did, to kind of go through what the expectations would be. And the study would result in those improvements to South Street in the neighborhood of $20,000. And then there would be that fencing between basically the water reservoir and the northern property there, the automotive shop there, Grandin Auto. So that would be the extent of the fencing we would need. The rest of the fencing and the safety improvements, the CP Rail representative did indicate that they're already way above standard because of the fact that we've improved all those over the last couple of years here. So there is no urgency. We just wanted to get those final numbers because otherwise we're coming to budget with that variance of costs. So without that safety assessment and knowing exactly what those improvements are going to be in a report that's approved by everybody, and then also to the transportation approval process will probably take 3 to 6 months, just really ballparkish. So that was the reason behind it. I'm not saying that we can't wait a year or two or ever.
Okay, that makes sense to me. So if we were to go ahead with the RFP, when it comes to council with those numbers, would it be possible, if this were to go ahead, to make it really clear to our residents that this was really just an exploratory measure, so that in the future, should that decision become a budget item, that we have better ideas of numbers?
Yes, Councillor, through the chair, we can definitely make that clear, and we'll make sure it's in the very beginning of the background as well too. So if somebody's just reading the first little bit of it, it's clear.
Awesome.
And if I'm hearing, if I heard it correctly, I don't know if I misheard this, about $20,000, the rail safety assessment. And you're saying that we would get results out of that we're looking for anyhow when it comes to or would this just strictly be gathering information for the cessation?
So what it would do, your worship, is it would do the safety assessment that would identify what fencing is actually required, the limits of it, and what improvements on South Street as well as any other place, which we don't anticipate any improvements. So it would give
Okay,
us a really
okay.
good idea. And that would be after we awarded the RFP and we actually had the person do the work.
I think it was the South Street comment that brought my question forward. Is it something that we were looking at? I think there's always kind of been on the table, South Street improvements, but I thought that we had done that already. So this would not be something that would give us data or at least recommendations aside from the whistle cessation. This would only be for the purpose of safety assessment for the purposes of whistle cessation in the future.
That's correct,
Thank
your
you.
worship. Our three at-grade crossings already meet the brand new CP
Right.
rail guidelines. But what they look at specifically when they look at cessation is pedestrian movements and trespassing of those pedestrian movements. So that's where CP rail identified that this would be kind of the main two things. It would be the fencing and the small pedestrian crossing on CP or on South Street.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments before we entertain a motion? Seeing none, we have a recommendation or we have otherwise. Councillor Stende.
I'm prepared to move that council directs administration to prepare a request for proposal for the rail safety assessment.
Questions, comments? And from my perspective, I already made myself clear. I'm not really in favor of moving forward on even an RFP when setting up expectations. So I'm not in favor, not that I'm not in favor of this in the future, just not in favor of this time. So I call the question, all in favor? All opposed? So it is carried.
Thank you, Worship Council.
That brings us to 7.4, Seniors Week Proclamation.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. The week of June 5th to 11th, 2023 has been declared Seniors Week, and it is a time to acknowledge the diversity of seniors and to increase public awareness for their vital role in our community. Seniors Week has been recognized since 1986 to celebrate and recognize the contributions seniors make to enhance the quality of life in Alberta. It is a week to show gratitude towards the seniors in our community who have helped contribute to the fabric of the Blackfalds community. This is the 13th year that the town of Blackfalds will be celebrating National Seniors Week. FCSS has partnered with several organizations locally to host a week of events for seniors in our community, and the list of events is included in the package. And so I guess with that, we're looking for recommendation to proclaim Seniors Week, June 5th to 11th.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Councillor Pell.
Thank you. Through the chair, I just have one question. For clarification, all of these events, with the exception of the one that states it's an intergenerational event, are only free and only available for seniors.
Yes, there are some membership options as well that are discounted, so those aren't technically free, but yeah, for the most part,
Sorry,
events are free.
event-wise,
Yes,
other than the intergenerational, it's only actually open for seniors.
yes.
Thank you.
Seeing no other questions? Councillor Sands.
I'm prepared to move that council moves to proclaim June 5th to the 11th, 2023 as Seniors Week in the town of Blackfalds.
Thank you. Debate or discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. 7.5 Blackfalds Days 2023 Pancake Breakfast Donation.
So annually, as part of our community outreach initiatives, Blackfalds Town Council organizes and hosts a pancake breakfast event at the community center during Blackfalds Days, as you guys are all aware. Council allocates the proceeds from the annual pancake breakfast event to a deserving local nonprofit organization, and we have 3 options that have been provided for council. We're open to other suggestions as well. But we are looking for a motion as to which organization we would like to donate the proceeds to this year.
Councillor Pell.
Thank you. Through the chair. I only have one comment on this. I'd be happy to see any of the groups that you've listed be the recipient of the Blackfalds Days donation. My question is, at the Pancake breakfast, can the box for donations be right at the front door with someone there getting donations, as well as we tell people to bring cash or donations for the food bank? Can we have the food bank box right there with a big sign? Because I know in seeing the past years, seeing the table, and the box gets passed by a number of times. So I just would like to see it more prominent this year. But otherwise, obviously, I'm in favor of this. But that's just my only comment, because I saw it get passed by a few too many times last year.
Yes, definitely, we can do that.
Thank you.
Councillor Stente.
Thank you for that comment. Mine is similar. Beyond also putting it out front, I was going to suggest that we maybe make a minimum donation requirement, as I have year after year now watched people pass by that box without donating. And some of them come in with quite large families, grandparents and children, and get 8 or 9 plates of food and do not make a donation at all. And I think that a minor requirement of like $1 a plate or a food donation is more than acceptable. It is still accessible to everyone in our community. That's my only suggestion for that. As for the recipient of those donations, my suggestion this year, after attending the Blackfalds Food Bank open house, as well as seeing some of their posts on social media, knowing that they are dealing with some empty shelves and they are really desperate this time of year for donations, I think that would be a really good place to put those donation dollars. And I know that they will make great use of them.
I agree. I think that's the right choice. In terms of the minimum donation, I'm on the fence with that one. I think it's probably nice to have a suggested donation. I don't know if there's, I would agree. I saw a lot of people come in and not give anything and eat a lot. And I saw other people donate $20 to have breakfast. So I don't know what I guess that's up to, we'll leave that up to further discussion. But this motion is for where the donation is going. And I would agree with Councillor Stende that the Food Hub, Beyond Food Hub, is the right place. That's one I support. Anyways, that said, we do have any other questions or comments before we entertain a motion? Councillor Pell.
Thank you. No further comments, but I am prepared to move. I move the council accepts the administrative recommendation and directs the proceeds from the 2023 Blackfalds Days Councillors Pancake Breakfast to the Beyond Food Community Hub.
Thank you. Debate or discussion on that motion? All in favor? That is unanimous.
Thank you.
And that brings us to 7.6, the STARS funding request.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. Before you do have a laptop just went sideways. The per capita request from STARS. Okay, I'm just going to read off this one over here. Yeah, as you're aware, the May 9th council meeting, STARS, Glenda Radham from the STARS organisation came to present to council. The non-profit air rescue organisation that operates in Western Canada to provide rapid emergency care and transportation for critically ill and injured patients. At the May 9th meeting, they did run us through what they do for the community in Alberta. And they did note that most of the larger communities did have a per capita request that they send to STARS. The request was $1 per capita, which is around $11,000. Similar to most community groups requesting money outside of budget time, we do ask council that we defer future funding requests until we can have those budget deliberations. So the motion tonight is that the council defers the STARS funding request until the 2024 budget discussions.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Pell.
Thank you. While I agree with discussing this during 2024 budget discussions, would it be possible to see this included in the initial budget forecasting for 2024?
Yep, most certainly.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have an administrative recommendation? Councillor Pell.
Thank you. I move the council defer STARS funding request until the 2024 budget discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Debate or discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Brings us to action course. Oh, CAO report, verbal.
Oh,
Don't want to skip
the
over
hot
that
item of the night.
fantastic part of it.
Save the best till
It's
last.
that's what happens when it's at the end.
Mixed it up and we did this on purpose, for the gallery and the public hearing and all that. So hopefully it's you don't mind that it's been at the end of the business items here, but we'll get started. May has been a busy month. Under General assisted the economic development recruitment efforts, with interviews being arranged with shortlisted applicants. Round 2 of interviews will be happening very soon. We got some more applicants. First round was unsuccessful in locating or securing a EDO officer. I attended the GFOA conference and gained knowledge on potential future projects and excellent networking with colleagues from other municipalities. Development and release of the RFP as directed by council. I assisted in many internal initiatives, including transfer site upgrades, SCADA system upgrades, purchasing policy development, and started the insurance claim for fire damages from the April 25th fire. And we finalized the renewal rates with our benefit consultant. Lots of liaising with surrounding communities, including Lacombe County, City of Lacombe, and Wolf Creek School Division. Enforcement services and protective services. Under municipal enforcement has so far during May opened 31 investigation files, 8 dealing with animal control issues. With properties covered with snow during the winter, now we see more complaints concerning property maintenance. With the warmer weather, we are seeing an increase in barking dogs and animals and at-large complaints. Community standard bylaw investigations are also on the rise. Officers have been proactive with traffic enforcement and provincial regulations relating to vehicles and driving. 2 operations have conducted where commercial vehicles were pulled over and checked for documentation, coloured fuel, equipment function, and other requirements. Both were very successful and saw cooperation on the municipal enforcement officers and other partnering agencies. Planning is underway for the 2023 annual bike rodeo, which will be held on the 12th of June and the 13th of June. The rodeos will be set up at schools to allow more participation to ensure the department reaches as many of the young youth as possible. Various prizes and giveaways have been purchased for this event. Under emergency management, planning stages are under the way for both LCMAO and LREMP, with meetings occurring on the 17th and 18th of May. Planning for the future ICS training and possible looking at LREMP tabletop exercise for the fall, along with the town of Blackfalds one likely in the fall as well. Fire, the new engine is finally under production at Fort Garry in Winnipeg. The chassis is at the manufacturers, and the midship, which is the crew area, is being welded in the production facility. The department is receiving regular updates on the engine's progress and is looking forward to seeing it in person. The department is now up to 4 recruits that are training on Monday evenings and again on Wednesday evenings with the rest of the department. Wednesday evenings is focused on the practical skills for the recruits that are in the NFPA 1001 Level 1 training on Tuesday evenings. RCMP Blackfalds. So the RCMP has seen an increase in activity as the weather has become warmer and more people are out and about. Of significance, there has been marked increase in domestic files and impaired driving offences. During the month, the officers participated in Touch a Truck, put on from the Central Alberta Crime Prevention, and placed first as the people's choice. Staffing levels remain good in the detachment, and the SRO continues to be an active member and participates within the Youth Action Coalition. Occupational health and safety, the noise level assessments have been completed within facilities, and we are now awaiting the certificates to arrive. This is a big step, as now we can set baselines for equipment and facilities being used and the quality of ear protection that must be used for each piece of equipment. Economic development. The economic development attended various meetings, including the Lacombe Regional Tourism Board, EdTech, the Red Deer Primary Care Network Attraction and Retention, and the Central Alberta Tourism Alliance meeting. Attended the regional EDO meeting hosted by Clearwater County and Rocky Mountain House. Projects include e-scooter programs with Neuron Mobility Canada. The EV charging stations have been ordered and featured and promoted the opening of 2 new businesses. Corporate services, tax notices were printed and sent out the first week of May. The tax notices and the inserts were documented where the town was experiencing the biggest increase of costs. Corporate services clerks experienced high volume of calls and emails from concerned citizens. Some of the inquiries were about the insert specifically, others were regarding the tax bill and assessments. All assessments concerns were referred to the town assessor, and they could be reached by email, phone, or scheduled in-person meeting on June 5th. This month, the 2022 financial year were finalised after the council approved the audited financial statements. The FIR and the SIR, their information returns, were filed with Municipal Affairs. This month, 2 other employees from finance attended the GFOA meeting conference. This 3-day conference started with the annual general meeting, followed by keynote speakers that were enlightening and informative. The afternoon sessions had breakout sessions. The finance team attended various sessions as discussed, asset retirement obligations, selling the town budget and presentations, retention in the workplace, Bitcoin overviews, and mental health awareness. Marketing communication has been busy with updating the staff orientation video. They were working with the staff orientation video to remove COVID information as well as other staff content. Wayfinding, continuing to work on wayfinding design files, so they'll be ready to roll out in the summer. The sign at the food bank has been updated and look much cleaner. Community garage sales, compiling addresses and map/brochure for the community garage sales. E-scooters, assisting the economic development officer in updating the website and putting out media release regarding the arrival of Neuron Mobility e-scooters, which have arrived. Under IT and records management, the IT department attended the 2023 MESA Prairie Spring Conference and Trade Show in Edmonton. This conference provided IT with the opportunity to collaborate, network with other municipal IT professionals and vendors across Canada. IT is continuing to update and implement new strategies for increased network security protocols to lower the danger of data loss, failures, and compromised data. A strong network security system is a critical component of cybersecurity and boost the network performance and added safe working conditions. Records management and IT attended the initial kickoff meeting with Zazio Enterprises for the implementation and coordination of the Versatile Professional Project for the town's record management plan. A dedicated support specialist has been assigned to the town for required configuration, provide administrative training, and project tracking for phase 1 of this project to be completed by June 9th, 2023. Infrastructure and property services. An application to amend the McKay Ranch area structure plan has been submitted and is currently in administrative review, and work continues with the developer and their consultant to updates to the Aspen Lakes West area structure plan to accommodate the recently announced school. The administrative policy has been currently updated, drafted by the development of security deposits taken to ensure transparent and consistent collection of deposits, conditions of release for security deposits, and circumstances where all or a portion of the deposits would be retained by the town. The department recently received referral from Lacombe County for a new maintenance shop and offices at Central City Asphalt, immediately south of the town. Public works operations are well underway with spring activities, including completion of street sweeping with the assistance of contracted services, sidewalk inspections, maintenance of Broadway Avenue North during the seasonal road closure, dust control, lift station maintenance, and crack sealing. Public Works Week, we want to thank our Public Works Department for their efforts in assisting the fire department in responding to multiple grass fires on April 26th. The team responded quickly and effectively to help extinguish the fires and prevent further spread. 3 new summer students joined the department May 1st and conducting sidewalk and valve inspections and assisting at the transfer station operations. Work on Womack's Greg Street project will start again with water after the long weekend. This work includes the thermoplastic painting of crossworks, stop bars, and center lines, curbing install at the EBC adjacent to the new plaza, a minor lane and curb revision on Womax, and the Broadway intersection, completion of gravel and alleyway along Womax beside Highway A and Queen Crescent, and finalizing the outstanding landscaping and fencing. Community services, Abbey Centre, negotiations with the food services provider for a new agreement, as currently the agreement expires on May 31st. Strong registration response for Camp Curious and swim lessons on May 1st, with the Camp Curious at 95% capacity and waitlists almost full. Communication was initiated with the existing naming rights sponsors whose term expires in May 2024. The launch of the 10th season of the McKay Outdoor Aquatic Centre scheduled for May 19th. Final stages of staff training and water testing to be completed this week. Introduction of the Summer Pass membership on May 15th, available for purchase until May 31st, provides 109 days of access for the price of 90 days. Introduction of specialty camps this summer, including half-day tennis and basketball basketball week-long camps. Registration is now open. Under projects, the TimCon construction has resumed work on the plaza project since the beginning of May, focusing on final grading before concrete pouring. Fence posts have been installed. Progress has been made on the fixing the light issue at the EBC Arena Bowl, and the problem appears to be resolved. Additionally, the library lights are scheduled to be completed later this month. Current negotiations on details of the overall title sponsor for All-Star Park with a company located just out of Blackfalds. Under events, preparation, as you're aware, of Blackfall Days is progressing well, and dedicated staff and volunteers are ready to successfully organise this event. Unfortunately, our bid to host the Centennial Cup was unsuccessful, as Okotoks was chosen as the site for 2025 National Championships. We are waiting confirmation for Slow Pitch Nationals regarding hosting the 2025 National Slow Pitch Championships, and we hope to receive positive news on this matter. Eagle Builder Centre, the lacrosse season is currently underway and will continue for the next few months. As you're aware, the circus was in town last weekend, and we do have another circus, the Great Benjamin Circus, coming on June 27th. And there's consistently high levels of interest in booking the EBC for various events. FCSS, working with the FCSS team, administration and provincial colleagues for the 2022 annual report to the province was completed, showing a total of $200,000 being spent by the municipality in support of the work done by the FCSS office. Working with BH Park to plan the recognition event during Rural Health Week, May 29th to June 2nd. Attended the Best of Blackfalds, an amazing event pulled off by the FCSS team to recognise the community, volunteers, and the tremendous efforts in Blackfalds. Continue to work with the consultants for the social needs assessment. Parks and facilities. The Parks and facilities have 6 returning summer staff and 8 new staff. The Parks team is preparing the community gardens, opening May long, Bike Skills Park, opening May long. Tennis courts are open, EBC Landscaping, Tails Water Park, opening the Friday after the long weekend, which I've seen it was open now, and the ongoing general cleanup around the community. Preparing the ball diamonds and soccer pitches for spring, summer use. All sports fields are being used by minor ball, minor soccer, slow pitch league, and weekend tournaments at the All-Star Park, 2 in May. Minor lacrosse and bowl hockey are using Arena 2 dry floor facility. Facilities are also working on various maintenance projects in the facility. And on April 26th, the operations team assisted Blackfalds Fire Department, as I mentioned, and ground support with numerous burning grass fires along the CP rail tracks. And that is the CAO report.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Councillor Pell.
Thank you. Just one, and only because we didn't receive this in writing, so when you said it, I missed it. The line painting on Womax, near the new intersection there at 2A. When was the date for that to be happening? Or approximate date?
Yeah, so they're supposed to start after the long weekend. I believe they just poured the concrete over there, and the line painting should be soon here. I know we've done some yellow line painting, or we'll be starting that right away in the Eagle Builder Center. So
okay,
I'm guessing within the next 2 or 3 weeks
so
at the most.
Eagle Builder Center will happen first, and then the rest of the road line painting along Womax.
I'm not sure which will happen first, but
Okay,
I'm
but it's
guessing
all-
that our public works will
All
be doing
happening
that
pretty
first.
soon. Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful. Thank you.
Councillor Dennis?
With the CP fire, not, do they compensate for the losses and expenses?
Yeah, good question. I have reached out to CP to start the claim. So that's sitting with the guy in Calgary at the moment. So I was planning on giving him a call today to see where it's sitting at, but he didn't answer the phone yet.
So like the vinyl fencing, would that be CPs or?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So we have put in the claim. We sent the quotes through to CP Rail at the response costs and the 2 fences at the Bark Park as well as the vinyl fence comes to about $180,000 worth of damage.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no other questions, can I get a motion to accept CAO report as information? Councillor Sands? Oh, do you have more questions?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'll move to accept the CAO report as information.
Thank you. All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. That brings us to action correspondence. 8.1, Ponoka Stampede invitation. So I am available and have RSVP'd. If somebody else is interested, they're usually pretty open for anyone else. Okay, if you want to, feel free to RSVP to that. They do have a big wagon. No need for a vehicle there. Pile on the wagon. It's a lot of fun. 8.2, Rimbey Rodeo invitation. Oh, did I miss something? No. Okay. All right. I'm not available on this date, so if somebody else is interested, Councillor Sands looks like he's interested again.
Sure, yeah. I'd love to.
Okay, thank you. And 8 administration, will you RSVP for Councillor Sands on that one? I've already RSVP'd for myself for Ponoka. They've got an email address. Mind you, I guess you could also RSVP on your own on that one, instead of dumping that on administration. I'll leave that up to you then. How's that?
Sure.
Thank you. Where are we at? Letter from Yellowhead County regarding the Alberta provincial election. Questions or comments about the action correspondence? Councillor Stendy?
Just a comment, seeing as the election is in 6 days, I think that they're a little late to the ball game. I would propose that we accept this as information.
Thank you. Okay, so we do have responses for the Ponoka Rimbey Stampede. So would you like to make that a motion? Councillor Stendy, accept for information.
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. And it brings us to information items. 9.1, FCSS board meeting for April 13. 9.2, Lacombe Foundation board meeting for March 27. 9.3, MPC meeting for March 28. 9.4, City of Lacombe highlights for May 8. And 9.5, City of Lacombe highlights for May 11. If there's no questions, can I get a motion to accept information items? Councillor Dennis.
Yeah, I'll move to accept them.
Thank you. Debate or discussion? All in favor? Thank you. That brings us to roundtable discussions. I'll start with Councillor Stende. We'll move ourselves to the left.
My apologies. I did not get mine in on time as I was away, so I will add mine to next month.
Thank you. Councillor San.
I have nothing further to add.
Deputy Mayor Swab.
I just want to say thank you to our Blackfalds staff for the 2 great volunteer appreciation events that we had. It made our volunteers feel recognized, and I'm so glad that we were able to do that for them. Other than that, if anybody needs to reach me on any of these, they're more than welcome to reach out.
Councillor Pell.
Thank you. Don't have anything in particular to add to my report, just one comment, as another counselor did specifically ask me on this. So I will just say that I have the, on May the 6th, I have the Smile Cookie volunteering on there, as that was a volunteer position. I was asked as a counselor to volunteer, and that means volunteer. So there's no per diem on there to help alleviate any questions about that. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Dennis.
I have nothing to add to mine.
Thank you. Councillor Coulter.
I don't have anything to add, but I do have a correction. I noticed on May 15th, I put regular council meeting and it should have been standing committee.
Okay, thank you. And for myself, similar to Councillor Pell, the Small Cookie event was no per diem, just strictly volunteer for that. The one I would highlight on mine would be the Battle River Watershed Alliance, that Caring for Watershed Provincial Student Competition, judging that. Very interesting. That's about 1.5 years in the making. They have a competition that goes out to, oh my goodness, I think it's grade 7 to 12 it's open to, and they had something like 260 entries. The students do a proposal on some type of project or product or anything. It's a whole variety of things that that they believe impact the watershed in a positive way, and it gets narrowed down from the main group to about 50 and then down to 10, and then they hold a fairly extensive presentation and judging held at the Reynolds Museum in Wetaskiwin. Incredible to see what some students in our province, again, ranging from grade 7, most of them actually were either in grade 8 or grade 12. And actually the winning presentation was from the same one that won last year, but they come up with some fantastic, and they win $1,000 for themselves, and they each of the 10 get incrementally less, but they get a prize, and then the top one gets $1,000 for their school, and quite a few of these actually get implemented by the watershed. So if you get an opportunity to follow this, it's pretty impressive to see what some of our youth can come up with. So that was that. And anything else, if anybody has questions, they can direct it toward me. So that said, can I get a motion to accept roundtables for information? Councillor Coulter.
I move to accept round table as information.
Thank you. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. We do have adoption of minutes. We have 11.1 minutes from the regular council meeting on May 9. Any errors or omissions? Motion to accept minutes from May 9. Give me a moment. Councillor Pell.
Thank you. Move to approve.
Thank you. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. And 11.2 minutes from the standing committee on May 15th. Errors, omissions? Motion to accept. Councillor Coulter.
I move to accept the standing committee minutes.
Thank you. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. And we have no notice of motion. Business for the good of council. None on the agenda. Anything to add? Seeing none. That brings us to the end of the public meeting. We will be moving into a confidential 14.1 under section 16 of FOIP. So we'll take a 5-minute recess. Can I get a motion to go to recess, Councillor Coulter?
I move to go to recess, please.
At 8:48. Thank you. All in favor? I know, I was thinking that was awfully silent. That was my blank. And it is unanimous. Thank you.